Previously on His Majesty's Secret. Everything changed. Sefu finally told Obi the truth, not just with words, but with everything he had. No more lies, no more masks, just a kiss under moonlight, raw, honest, and unforgettable. But they weren't alone. From the shadows, Malik saw everything. His brother, the king, disguised as a commoner, and in the arms of another man. Now it's morning. The palace still sleeps, but the tension is wide awake, and Queen Callista feels it. A shift in the air, in her son, in the silence. Welcome to Episode 4, Part 1 of His Majesty's Secret. Tonight, the king brings his lover to the queen. He's ready to tell the truth, but is she ready to hear it? Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more steamy drama. And if you want the uncut version, join my Patreon and become part of the inner circle for exclusive scenes you'll never see here. The sky was blushing with the soft blue of dawn. Mist clung to the river like a silk shawl, wrapping everything in quiet. The world was still, except for them. Obi lay on his side, lips parted in sleep, the gold in his skin catching the rising light like honey on bronze, and Sefu Bahati was awake. He wasn't wearing his crown, but he looked like royalty anyway, sitting shirtless, the morning wind lifting his locks as he stared at the man beside him like he was watching sunrise for the first time. Obi stirred, eyes fluttering open. "You're staring again," he murmured, voice still husky from sleep. "You snore like a goat," Sefu lied. Obi blinked. "What?" Obi snorted, tossing a twig at him. "You're stupid." Sefu tackled him back down onto the blanket, both of them laughing loud, boyish, carefree. For a moment, it was easy to forget the weight of a kingdom. They sat beside the river not long after, eating wild berries Sefu had picked at sunrise. Obi leaned against his side, watching dragonflies skim the water. "Do you ever think about the risk?" Obi asked suddenly. "What we're doing, if your people found out?" Sefu was quiet for a long time, then he reached for Obi's hand. "I think the real risk was not finding you sooner." Later, Sefu moved swiftly through the stone passage, the red evening light slashing across his face through narrow windows. He thought no one saw him return. There were no guards at the gates, and no advisors calling his name. His shawl was half off his shoulder, dust still clinging to his feet from the fields. But someone had been waiting. "Where were you?" The voice sliced through the hall like a whip. Sefu stopped, turned slowly. Malik stepped out from the shadows. He didn't look angry, just stunned. His arms were crossed, brows furrowed. His eyes, wide and searching, landed on the loosened shawl around Sefu's body, the dried grass on his legs, and the half-laced sandals. "You were with him, weren't you?" Malik asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it felt heavy. "The man I saw you with, the one you kissed by the river." Sefu froze. His breath caught, but he said nothing. "I saw it," Malik continued, stepping closer. "That wasn't just affection, that was love. And you're the king." Sefu finally spoke. His voice was low. "So what?" Malik's jaw tightened. "What happens when Mother finds out? When the court finds out? You think you can keep sneaking off like some lovesick village boy while the whole kingdom bows at your feet?" "I didn't ask for this crown," Sefu snapped. "But I wear it. And if loving him is the one thing that's mine, then I'll protect it." Malik's eyes narrowed. "At what cost?" "I don't know yet," Sefu replied, "but I'd rather risk the throne than live a lie." The silence that followed was brutal. Malik looked down, then back at his brother. "Then tell her," he said. "Tell Mother, or I will." Sefu's face stiffened. "You wouldn't." "I would." Malik's voice trembled, not from malice but fear. "Because I'd rather she hear the truth from you than twist it into something it's not." They stood there for a beat, two sons of the crown, divided by fear and bound by blood, and neither of them noticed. But just around the corner, a soft figure stood, watching, listening. Queen Callista, still as stone, her back was pressed against the wall, her breath caught in her throat. Just beyond the corner, her sons' voices echoed low and tense. She couldn't catch everything, but what she did was enough. She'd heard only fragments of what her sons were speaking about. A man, a kiss, a risk, A lie. She closed her eyes, and without a sound, turned and disappeared. The sun had risen high now, lazy and golden above the whispering fields of tall grass that stretched far from the palace. Butterflies danced above wild flowers. Obi blinked at the white stallion in front of him. "You stole a horse," Sefu grinned, holding the reins like a boy who'd just broken the rules and couldn't wait to break more. "Technically," he said, "I borrowed it from myself." Obi folded his arms and stepped closer. "And we're doing what exactly? Riding off to become bandits?" "Something like that," Sefu said, climbing onto the horse, his bare chest still beneath a flowing maroon shawl. "Come on, I want to show you something." Obi hesitated, but not for long. He climbed up behind him, arms wrapping instinctively around Sefu's waist. The horse snorted once, then took off, hooves pounding into the earth as the lovers galloped through the open plains like fire on wind. Obi screamed once, half thrill, half fear, and then laughed, throwing his head back as his curls whipped behind him. They rode like that for a while, fast, wild, unstoppable. The wind tore through the grass. The sky seemed to lean closer just to watch. Eventually, they slowed, and the horse came to a gentle stop on a small hill overlooking the kingdom's edge. From there, you could see it all. Rooftops, rivers, market stalls, and the domes of the palace glittering in the distance. "This is your world," Obi whispered, chest still rising with excitement. "You could have had anyone. Why me?" Sefu didn't answer right away. He slid off the horse and turned to face him. His gaze was serious now, clear. "Because you see me when I'm not wearing gold," he said. "Because the first time you looked at me, you weren't afraid, you just saw me." Obi looked down, almost shy, then met his eyes again. "I still don't know everything," he said quietly. "About you, about your world." "I know," Sefu replied, "and when you're ready, I'll show you." At this time of the night, the palace was quiet, eerily so, the kind of silence that wrapped itself around your ankles and climbed higher with every breath. Queen Callista sat by the open window of her chambers, her long robe pooling around her feet like liquid gold. She hadn't spoken in hours, but her thoughts were screaming. A man, a risk. The words she had overheard earlier had knotted themselves around her chest. She wasn't naive. She'd seen Sefu change these past moons. He had become distant, distracted, yet oddly lighter, like a man who had finally tasted freedom but was terrified of losing it. She had thought it might be a woman that was making her son so distracted, but a man. She rose and crossed the room slowly, almost as if walking would make it all make sense. Had she missed the signs? No. Her son had always been careful. Brilliant, caring, but careful, and now he was hiding. Callista exhaled sharply, gripping the window ledge. Outside, the gardens glistened under the moonlight. The palace was still, but her world was not. She could demand the truth, confront him, storm through the corridor like a queen betrayed. But something inside her paused. This was her son, her Sefu, the boy she nursed through fevers, the boy who once cried when his goat went missing, the boy who used to bring her wild flowers and say, "Only the rarest for the queen." Could that same boy be in love? And if it was love, was it so wrong? She blinked back, something sharp in her eyes. Not anger, not shame, just confusion. And the queen stood still, alone in her uncertainty. Later, Queen Callista sought out Malik, determined to find out exactly what he knew. The reading room smelled of old parchment and jasmine oil, her favorite blend. A dozen candles lined the carved shelves, their flames steady, almost ceremonial. The queen sat alone at a wide ebony table, a crystal goblet of plum wine resting near her fingertips. She wasn't reading, she was waiting. Just then, soft footsteps approached. Malik appeared in the doorway, shoulders squared but eyes restless. "Mother, you asked for me." Callista gestured to the chair opposite her. "Sit, my son." Malik obeyed, the leather cushion sighing beneath him. The table felt too large, the silence too heavy. Callista's voice was gentle. "Malik," the softness in her tone was gone. "You have always watched over your brother. If there is something I should know, something that endangers his heart, or this crown, I trust you will tell me, before another mouth twists it into poison." Malik's breath caught. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Memories of Sefu kissing the commoner at the moonlit riverbank flooded him. His voice cracked. "Mother, Sefu, he's just trying to be happy," he whispered instead. Callista studied him, every heartbeat an eternity. "Then that will be all." Malik rose, bowing. He hesitated, eyes glossy with something unsaid, then turned and left, footsteps echoing down the marble hall. The door clicked shut. Callista collapsed against the table, the regal mask sliding from her face. Her hand trembled as it closed around the untouched scroll. "Trying to be happy?" she repeated, a crack of hurt and wonder in her voice. The candle flames bent, as if bowing to the moment, and the queen finally understood. Whatever her son was hiding, it was not shame, it was love. But could the kingdom love him back? The question hung in the candlelight, waiting for dawn. The air in the courtyard that day smelled of burning sage and palm oil. Torches crackled in a perfect circle, casting long shadows across the king's bare shoulders. Every flame bowed toward the center, where Sefu stood tall, robed only in sacred maroon fabric tied low around his waist. His chest rose and fell slowly, deeply, like a man trying to silence his thoughts. Drums echoed from the corners of the shrine. The nobles stood in silence, and a circle of white-robed elders hummed low chants, swaying gently. A priestess stepped forward, holding a clay bowl filled with smoking embers. From it, she scooped a mixture of ash and herbs with her fingers and approached the king. "You are the living bridge," she intoned, "between the blood of our ancestors and the breath of tomorrow." Sefu nodded once. He was meant to feel powerful, sacred, divine, but all he could think about was Obi's mouth. Last night, those gasps. The priestess smeared ash across his chest, marking him with the symbols of earth, water, and fire. Sefu barely blinked, but his thoughts drifted again to Obi, the way he said his name like it meant something holy. He cleared his throat sharply. The nearest elder turned, concerned. "Are you all right, my king?" Sefu nodded too quickly. "Yes, just smoke." The priestess handed him the ceremonial flame, a carved staff topped with flickering fire. It was tradition. The king would raise it skyward, call to the ancestors, and swear loyalty to the people. But instead of thinking of duty, he imagined Obi calling him, "my king," in a breathless voice, half laughing. Sefu raised the flame high above his head. The fire danced like a secret. The priestess shouted, "What does the king swear?" Sefu opened his mouth, but his brain whispered, "I swear to never forget the taste of Obi's lips." Out loud he managed, "To serve, to protect, to honor the ancestors." The crowd cheered. The ritual was complete. The nobles and elders began murmuring as they left. Sefu stood still for a moment, letting his pulse settle, but then Queen Callista stepped forward, her face unreadable. Her voice was soft. "You burn so brightly tonight, my son." Sefu bowed his head slightly. "The ancestors were generous." She stepped closer, her voice smooth as silk, but cutting like glass. "The ancestors see more than we think, especially when a king burns for more than duty." And then she turned, walking off into the shadows. Sefu stood frozen, his fingers twitching by his side. What did she mean by that? What did she know? The fire crackled behind him, sharp, mocking. The stone corridor was cold, silent, ancient. Cobwebs dangled in corners, and the walls smelled of damp history. Sefu walked first, barefoot, clutching Obi's wrist gently behind him. They moved fast, quiet as shadows, through the old servants' tunnel that hadn't been used in years. Behind them, a heavy door slowly creaked shut, sealing them inside the palace. Obi's heart thundered in his chest. "You sure no one saw us?" he whispered, voice tight with nerves. Sefu grinned over his shoulder, that familiar fire in his eyes. "Trust me, this path is older than the throne. No one comes here." Obi raised a brow. "And you just know secret palace tunnels?" Sefu turned, pressed him lightly against the cool wall, and kissed him, soft and electric. "I am the king," Obi smirked. "You don't act like it when you're begging for my touch." Sefu laughed quietly and grabbed his hand again. "Come on, before someone catches the scent of sin on us." They slipped past a tapestry-covered arch and entered a vast, forgotten room. It was beautiful. The royal library, Candlelight flickered from mounted sconces. Ancient scrolls lay in gold-etched cubbies. Shelves stacked to the ceiling. Dust floated through the air like glitter. Obi let go of Sefu's hand and stepped in slowly, like he'd found a hidden kingdom. "I didn't know this existed," he breathed. "No one's used it in years," Sefu replied, closing the door behind them. "Only royals once, and no one bothers now, except me." "So," Obi said, brushing a curl off Sefu's forehead. "What now, Your Majesty?" "Now," Sefu murmured, eyes on his lips, "I finally kiss you in my own palace." And he did. But then a noise broke in the corridor. They both froze. Obi's eyes widened. Sefu put a finger over his lips. Footsteps, then silence. They didn't move, didn't breathe, and after a tense moment, the steps faded. They exhaled. Obi whispered, "What was that, Sefu?" Sefu only smirked. "Told you it would be fun." Obi shoved him lightly. "You're lucky I love danger." Sefu cupped his face. "No, I'm lucky you love me." That stopped Obi. The words hung there, between scrolls, shadows and stolen breaths. He smiled slowly and said, "I really do." And for the first time in a long while, Sefu forgot what he was afraid of. Just for a moment. The scent of hay and leather filled the quiet air, broken only by the soft shuffle of hooves and the distant hum of birds. Golden light filtered through the wooden slats of the stable walls, casting long stripes across the ground. Sefu stood at the far end, gently brushing one of the royal horses. His robes were simple today, the kind he wore when he didn't want to be king, just a man with calloused hands and thoughts too loud to silence. He stroked the horse's mane slowly, lost in the rhythm, until a familiar voice spoke behind him. "You always looked more peaceful in here than on that throne." Sefu turned. Malik leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, brow slightly raised. There was a pause, then Sefu cracked a tired smile. "That's because horses don't judge me." Malik stepped forward. "Neither do I." The silence stretched again, not heavy this time, but fragile, tentative. Sefu glanced down. "You followed me that night." Malik nodded, unapologetic. "I did. And you saw everything." "Yeah." Another beat. Sefu's voice was quieter now. "I thought you'd hate me." Malik scoffed, stepping beside him. "Please, you think I'm that boring?" Sefu finally looked at him, searching, unsure. Malik shrugged. "I was shocked. Sure, took me a minute to get my brain to stop spinning. I mean, you're the king. You're supposed to be untouchable, perfect, married off by now with little royal heirs running around." Sefu snorted. "That was the plan. But then I saw you with him. I saw the way you looked at him, and it hit me. I've never seen your eyes like that. Not when you won your first battle, not when you were crowned, not even when you held father's sword." Sefu blinked. His lips parted, but no words came. Malik smiled faintly. "I guess, turns out I'm not the rebel after all." Sefu finally laughed, taking a breath. The air felt a little lighter now. Malik turned to leave, but paused near the door. "He makes you happy. Don't let that go, Sefu. Even if it's messy, especially if it's messy." And just like that, he was gone. The following night, Sefu had had enough. He was tired of hiding something that no longer felt shameful, and especially from his mother. So he decided to do the one thing he'd been avoiding. The moon hung like a silver witness above the palace walls. Inside, every corridor whispered with history and bloodline, but Sefu wasn't thinking about any of that. His palm was clutching Obi's hard, silent, unshakable. They walked together, cloaked in dim candlelight, through the winding passage behind the guards' quarters, a path only royals knew. It was the first time Obi had stepped this deep into the palace. Every echo of their footsteps felt like a scream, but still, he didn't let go. They stopped at the threshold of Queen Callista's chamber. Sefu turned to Obi, his voice barely above a breath. "Whatever happens in there, you stand by me. Always," Obi said. Sefu raised his hand and knocked. The door creaked open. Inside, Callista stood by the mirror, unpinning her earrings. A royal silk robe swept around her like fog. She turned and paused. Her son stood at the door, and beside him a stranger, a man, young and beautiful. Her eyes flickered from Sefu to Obi, to their joined hands. "You're not alone," she said slowly. Sefu stepped forward. "No, I'm not." He released Obi's hand, only to stand taller, straighter, like a man walking into war with his heart wide open. "This is Obi," Sefu said. "He's the one I disappear to. He's the one I love." A silence passed. The queen did not move, not even a breath. She looked at Obi. Her gaze didn't falter, didn't blink. Then she turned to her son, and in a voice calm as midnight, she said, "You love him." It wasn't a question. Sefu nodded once. Yes. Another pause. Callista walked slowly toward them. The only sound was the hush of her robe trailing the marble floor. She stood inches from Obi now, so close he could smell her jasmine oil. Her eyes scanned him like a sword to flesh. Then she leaned in and whispered, not to Sefu, to Obi, "Do you know what throne he sits on? What blood runs in his name? What beasts circle this crown at night?" Obi didn't answer. He couldn't. Then she straightened. Her tone changed, dramatic and distant, like she wasn't just speaking to her son, but to fate itself. The gods take their time with kings, but when they strike, she looked up at Sefu now, gaze unreadable, voice like a curse veiled in silk. "You've just lit a fire that won't go out. I hope you're ready to burn." Then she walked past them both. Her perfume lingered. Then, slam, the chamber door shut behind her, and everything went silent. And there it is. Tonight, Sefu chose to stop hiding. But love is never simple in a palace of secrets, because what burns brightest always attracts the storm. And that was just part 1. What's coming in part 2? Let's just say you're not ready. Hit subscribe, smash that like, and drop your theories in the comments. And for the uncensored, unfiltered heat, join us on Patreon. It gets wilder there.